Hello, and thank you for coming to check out this video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about this document I have on the screen behind me. And the point of that document is to talk about the different exam topics and what study resources people can be using when they're looking to achieve their CCNP collaboration. The first important note is that I created this document based off of the exam topics that can be found on the Cisco Learning Network website. And if we look at the different, what they call domains, 1.0 is 20%, 2.0 is 20% as well. And then you can see 15, 25, 10, 10. So QoS and collaboration applications are going to be one of the smaller ends of the topics. But for me personally, I think that 2.0 and 4.0 are really the key things here. And looking at the exam, we can see 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0 make up 60% of the exam, right? 20 plus 25 is going to be 45, plus 15 is going to be 60%. A big reason why I bring that up is because the Advanced Call Control and Mobility exam, CLACM, is specifically those topics. And you have to pass two different exams to get your CCNP. You have to pass the collaboration core, but you also have to pass a concentration exam in order to get your CCNP. So a lot of people are wondering about, how can I study for the collaboration core? For me, personally, I would say study for the Advanced Call Control and Mobility exam. And then once you pass that exam, go and take your collaboration core because you'll already have studied 60% of the exam. Another reason why I bring that up is because call control, signaling, media, protocols, all of that stuff is critical to being a good collaboration engineer. And if you're going to go for your CCIE, which the collaboration core is the prerequisite to the CCIE collaboration lab, you are absolutely going to need to know signaling, protocols, call control. And the Advanced Call Control and Mobility official cert guide that we are writing, I think is really doing a great job on covering that different stuff. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that if you're going to go for the collaboration core, or if you're going to go for the CCIE after you go for the collaboration core, it is going to be important to focus on the call control, the signaling, the media, the protocols, all of that great stuff. Now, we can expand all these different sections, but we're not going to look at it here. We're going to look at it on that text document that I have right here. And this text document with the different links that I have, I'm going to upload that to GitHub. Actually, I've already uploaded it. And I will share this document. I'll share the link to this document in the description of this video. One thing about this document, though, is that it's not a final product. So I will be updating it as time goes. Let's actually just go ahead and jump into it now. An important thing to know about the blueprints is that whenever it says describe, you don't need to know it really deep. You really just need to know the topic enough to be able to talk about it or feel your way around it, right? Because they're going to give you a question with some answers you can choose from. So if you can just kind of feel your way around the topic, you'll know enough to be able to, pick out what's what in the exam. Some of the questions are a little bit tricky. They might take a little bit more thought and focused and attention and a little more whittling away at the answers and identifying which ones are wrong. But when we look at the describe section, we see 1, 2, and then we see some more down here as well. For this one here, we see a couple of describes for MRA and digit analysis process. And then we also see describe the problems that can lead to poor voice quality, right? So this is probably section 5 is going to be QoS, I believe. Let's go ahead and minimize these again. I'm going to pause the recording for a little bit while I put the actual titles of the different sections into the document. All right, I've now updated the document, and you can see that I've added the different sections. So for 1.1, we have describe, 1.2, we have describe. There's a lot of different ones in here as well. But for me personally, 1.0, even though it's 20% of the exam, I don't really know the high availability part all too well. I don't really know well, I do know the disaster recovery part well enough, but I don't feel like that's all too important. Bandwidth and QoS, stuff like that, I knew it really well when I went for my CCNP voice way back in the day. But I generally don't put too much emphasis on that. Ever since that C-Voice exam, I don't put too much emphasis on it. Even when I went for the CCIE Collaboration Lab, there was a whole section of QoS that I just gave up the points for. I didn't want to implement the QoS because I didn't want it to break other things that were working. I also didn't want to spend too much time working on it and not get the points, right? Because you can spend an hour on that and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, and now you just wasted an hour. So I basically cut my losses with the QoS stuff in the CCIE Collaboration Lab, but then also when studying for the Collaboration Core, I didn't really put much emphasis on it. So it is definitely possible from my experience, right? Just saying for myself that you can pass without knowing too much about it. Now I know what it is, and I know a little bit about some of the values, but I was able to navigate my way through it, but I did not make it a very core part of my studying. Now, what I did was I took a lot of different Cisco documentation that I think covers things really well, even for the collaboration part of things. And so you can see here that the documentation that I selected is high quality stuff. It has great images, it has great explanations of things, great tables that are very important to pay attention to, such as this table here. Now, moving back to the text file here, there were a pretty good amount of videos that I've already done. Actually, while I was taking the exam, I remember thinking to myself, I've done a video on that. I've written a document about that. Or I'm going to do a future video about that. So for DHCP, for example, in this one, I cover stuff about DHCP on the CUCM side, how to actually configure it in CUCM. I cover, as you can see here, let's go back a little bit. This is how you configure DHCP pools on the CUCM. I also cover how to configure the DHCP pool on the Windows Server. And then I even go a step further with it, and we talked about the configuration of the DHCP pool on the iOS device. Let me get this thing out of the way, as you can see here, right? So we touched on multiple different points where you can do the DHCP stuff, and I talked about the importance of option 150, and I also talked about option 66. We talked about the importance of the name server, all that really good stuff, the importance of the default gateway. Now, NTP, I cover it a little bit in this video, but what I would really like to highlight instead of this video is this document that I put here that was written by some jerk. And if you go through the document, it talks about everything from, what's the point of this NTP server? And in this scenario, between the communication here, this is the NTP client, the publisher is the client, and this is the server. But then on the other side of things, the subscribers, whether it be a CUCM or an IMMP node, they are going to be the NTP clients, and the publisher will be the server. Again, we talk about how to do the configuration. We also talk about some of the configuration in the OS admin page or even in the CLI. And then further down, we talk about actually looking at the traffic and the communication in the PCAPs, and then also in the CLI. So this document is going to give you a ton of really good information to cover that NTP topic. Now, if we move on, there's other stuff about CDP, which I use the Wikipedia link in here because the Wikipedia link is great on that. I need to add some of the TFTP stuff here, apparently. So I'll update the document and re-upload it to the repository on GitHub. Now, for the DNS stuff, they talk about troubleshooting it. I think it's better to actually know how to explain DNS. And because of that, I went and put some good documentation down here for it. This documentation talks about Cisco Jabber DNS because I think that that's going to be important to look at. Call setup and teardown, that's going to, if you go through this playlist of mine where I talk about how to read call manager traces, you will, even if you don't know any of it right now, you will learn about identifying call flows, like how to actually build it out. You'll learn about how does the signaling stand things up and how does the media get established. But that's also other stuff that I cover in, I think one of these is going to be my troubleshooting audio quality videos, because in that troubleshooting audio quality video, yeah, this one here, that's exactly what I talk about. You have to know signaling and media in order to troubleshoot audio quality issues. So call setup and teardown. Then when we get over to the iOS side of the house, codec selection and all of that, DTMF, this cube document right here is absolutely awesome. And it covers things so well. You'll probably recognize this image here from one of the videos that I did on DTMF, which I've actually added in here. Talking about voice translation rules and profiles, I pulled out documentation that I believe is written by TAC engineers. It's really, really, really good documentation. Let's see, they don't actually put the author on here. Then when we get down into the the ISDN and PRI stuff, I do a little bit of that in a video of mine down the road. I'm going to be uploading to my CCNP and CCIE lab playlist where we'll be configuring DHCP PRIs. We'll also be configuring stuff on SIP gateways and whatnot. But Kevin Wallace already has 2 absolutely outstanding videos about this that I highly recommend checking out. Now, if we go down to the dial peer selection, let me see where that is on the gateways. This is a really good document, by the way. This one was written by Ayodeji, I believe. Let's take a look once it loads up. And it goes through step by step about what's going to happen at each one of these phases. And this document is, if you're not reading this document to help you with understanding for the collaboration core or for your apps exam or for the CCIE collaboration or just understanding it for the job, you're cheating yourself. You really got to go see that. Now, there is another document that I want to find that talks about dial peer selection on the iOS side of things. This document was written by a friend of mine. He is extremely thorough. He covers things so in depth and with so much detail. It's absolutely amazing what a great job he does. And I, again, would highly recommend reading this document. So I know that there's no official cert guides out just yet, but between videos that are available, between people providing logs for you to go through, lab setups, and also just the documentation that's already out there and provided by TAC engineers, people who know this stuff very well, I see that there's no reason for people to prolong their studying for this exam already. And I hope that this list of resources is going to help people with having a sort of a direction forward in how to study. So I hope that you found some value in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.